Peace and love, my friends. Thanks for waiting for me. Much appreciated. Yeah, the internet was down over here on the East Coast, at least in Maine and a couple of different places, and it just came back on just in time. So thanks for waiting, everybody. Let's see who's here. Brother Ed, J. David, Rose, Pat, Janet, Sue, John, Kristen. Thanks for your help this morning, Kristen. Anne, Ellen, Sue, Tom, Barbara, Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. Been reading your stuff. Let's see who else. KT, Pat, Kevin. Thank you, everybody, for waiting. I sure appreciate it. Small community this morning, but a good community, a deep-hearted community, one that I want to talk with this morning. So welcome, my dear friends and community. Peace be with you. For those of you who don't know me, you may be watching by recording. I'm Peter Panagore, a near-death experiencer, and today we continue our exploration of the after effects of near-death experiences, NDEs, as outlined by the International Research and outlined by the International Association for Near-Death Studies, the world's leading research group in this field, a bunch of whole university professors types. And they've been doing it for 40 years. And today we're going to be focusing on the spiritual after effects of NDEs. We talked about the psychological ones over the last couple of weeks. Now the spiritual after effects. These insights might also resonate with those who've had spiritually transformative experiences, because I've found that it's not exclusive just to near-death experiencers, that a lot of people with STEs have similar after effects psychologically, but also, I think, spiritually. So in this series, my hope is that you gain a deeper understanding of both our individual, like who am I and what's happened to me, and collective spiritual selves, who have we become, especially following these kinds of profound experiences, NDE, STE. Hey, thank you very much, KT, for the super chat. Appreciate it. Appreciate your support. The world needs us. In a 1993 Gallup poll, it established that a 1993 Gallup poll established that 12 to 15%, this is back 30 years ago, 12 to 15% of Americans had experienced some kind of NDE. And it's been over 30 years since that poll. And medical science has only improved at bringing people back from the brink of death. And as a result, we have an even larger population of spiritually transformed people all over the world. So together, we have the power to shift hearts and nations toward love. This kind of thing isn't just about navel gazing. It is about living in the world. Now, our NDE after effects, spiritually transformative experience after effects, often lead to us having similar spiritualities. Your after effects are similar to my after effects, and that's the thing that IANS has been studying. And here are some of the most common changes. These aren't the only ones, but here's some of the most common ones. An increased interest in spiritual topics. I mean, you're here, right? That's what we do here. We research and read and study deep spiritual topics. And many of us, myself included, developed a deep curiosity about spiritual subjects after my NDE. It changed my whole life, redirected me towards doing mostly that with a good part of my career. Now, this heightened interest is a natural response to our profound encounters with the reality beyond the physical world, with God, with Allah, whoever you want to call the nameless one. And we often find ourselves drawn to various spiritual practices. I'm, deep into meditation and yoga and teachings and sometimes even philosophies, less so for me in the philosophical end of things, in an effort to fully understand what we've experienced. This is why I study. I try to study to figure out myself. And I had this conversation with this friend of mine the other day about the Bhagavad Gita, which I'm rereading, and I just finished the Upanishads again. Um, the reason why, and she's a pretty heavy Christian, and my denomination, my former denomination, and she's a really good person. Uh, but I could see the skeptical look in her eye when I was telling her I was reading the Bhagavad Gita again. And I told her that after my near death experience, I found in the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and the Tao Te Ching and a whole bunch of other books, me. I found me there. Like they're talking about stuff, and I'm reading through the stuff, and I'm like, well, that's happened to me. That's my experience. This is my experience. That's my experience. The more I study, the more I know about myself, the more I learn about how I am. And this knowledge, well, it's helpful not only in self-reflection, it's knowledge that helps us as a collective community moving forward with each other, whether that's locally, meaning us, or whether that's globally, which is what I'm hoping for. Hey, Canadian Lighthouse, good morning up there in Canada, across the border, a couple hours from me. Hey, Lynn, Robert, Sue, thank you. I'm glad you agree. You too. Excellent. So excuse me, let's keep going down the list. We become more spiritual, less religious. Now, that said, last night I was at this event on addiction and art in my town, and I met a woman who I didn't know who had a near death experience. And someone said, "Oh, you got to go talk to so and so. She's just had a near death, or she had a near death experience." And I went up to her and I whispered in her ear. I said, "Hey, so I hear you had a near death experience." And she looked at me and she said, "Yes, I have." I said, "Well, did it change you drastically?" And she said, "No." I was like, "Well, what?" She said, "No, I've always been a deep person of faith." So it made her a little more religious. But usually it makes us more spiritual and less religious, but there's a subpopulation that definitely gets more religious. And it's a deep mystical sort of religion, right? It's not superficial or misguided. It's just that the rest of us, me myself included, my I I became more spiritual because religion went away from me. I worked in religion, but the divine itself is the reality that had no name and lives with me. So near death experiencers, and I think STEers as well, NDEers, often move away from organized religion. I mean, you're here, right? So NDE, STE, if you're here, you've moved away from organized religion, and you're embracing a more personal and experimental, pardon me, experiential, and it's also experimental. I'm not wrong about that little Freudian slip there. It's experimental, but it's also it's primarily experiential spirituality. And while some of us may retain, like this woman, or even deepen, like this woman, certain religious beliefs, for me, all my beliefs went away. And because our understanding of the divine typically expands, mine expanded way beyond traditional structures. Although, I did find in the ancient books others like myself. Now, we tend to focus on universal truths as a group and direct spiritual experiences rather than religious rituals or doctrines or dogmas. Heck, I was calling not church, no doctrine, no dogma. Now, for example, like I said, I worked in religion, but I'm not religious. I haven't been religious since the day I died and came back. I'm a knower. I know that the knower, capital K, I know that the knower knows me. And I seek to be known and to know. Spiritual homesickness. Yeah, I got it. Or I had it. I had it bad too. Maybe you've had this kind of thing. This is, for me, it was probably the most challenging aspect, the thing that was most difficult about my after effects. Because many of us experience a deep longing to return to the real, the realm, the light, the divine, the transcendent, the place of unconditional love, light, peace that we encountered during our NDEs or in the moments of our STEs. And for me, this feeling of homesickness was intense, leading to a sense of exile, isolation, and depression and chronic suicidality for decades. And over time, because of my interest in knowledge and spiritual practice, over time, I learned, and I encourage you all to integrate that sense of heaven within myself that is my original goodness that's always with me, that I feel it. That's what the longing, it's sort of like grief. You don't grieve for people you don't love. You love these people and you grieve for them because you love them. And this is sort of a grief feeling for me. I grieved for my homesickness for the divine light. And so I sent my mind and my body and my soul and the whole of me in pursuit of it, because I created a space inside myself, an expanded space inside myself, for this thing to come dwell within me, capital T, the and it alleviated my homelessness, my homesickness. It alleviated my, well, I felt homeless too, and I mean, homeless as in, like, what am I doing here in this world? I'm not from here. I'm from this other place, and I long to go there. And I have found over a long period of time, deep interior practice, incrementally, it alleviates this. I When I became integrated, I I still, like, wasn't it really nice? So if it's like a fond memory of a childhood trip with my family to the cold river in the Berkshire Mountains. I just have a fondness for that river. I remember back all the good times when we were kids and all that kind of stuff, and the swimming in the cold river, and but it's not like I want to go back there. It's not like I long need to go back there. I needed to go back to the divine, but I couldn't, so I brought the divine to me. Now, how about you? Do you have this longing, this homesickness, this, I don't know, depression? Increased intuitive psychic abilities. And these are the ones everybody wants to know about. So there's this increase in intuition and psychic abilities. And one of the most common and intriguing after effects of NDEs and SDEs is the enhancement, and that's important because we sometimes just have these things and then they get enhanced after our STE or NDE, or the sudden onset. Suddenly you're super intuitive and have psychic abilities you didn't have before. And these can range from heightened intuition to telepathy, to kind of know what other people are thinking, precognition, or the ability to perceive spiritual entities, dead people, or angels, or ghosts. These abilities feel like a natural extension. This is the weird part. It's just a natural extension of our heightened awareness and connection to the spiritual realm. It was a surprise, but it didn't feel alien. I felt alien. But these experiences, they were surprising, but they were normal. And we'll explore more of this in detail next week because there's a whole lot of these. So stay tuned. Next week, we're going to talk about the psychic abilities of near-death experience and spiritually transformative experiences. Not all of them, because there's a lot of them. We're going to cover quite a few of them, though. So tune in next week. Ability to know or relive the future. And this is a totally weird one. And it weirded me out on a regular basis for frickin' decades. When it would come in this major intensity. And so some NDEers, including me, report that we have the ability to foresee or relive future events. How do you relive a future event? Well, we could get into the physics of it and block time and all I know is this, is that it often manifests as a vivid premonition, or, and this is the kind that I have regularly, a super strong sense of deja vu. That is, I have this like through line of deja vu all the time, and then there's these huge peaks, and there's little peaks, but these huge ones that feel like I'm being stretched in time and space, like the two black holes smash into each other, and the gravity wave comes through, and it feels like I'm like this. And it's disconcerting. It's a surprise when it happens at that level of intensity, which it happened to me this week. It doesn't always happen that way, but there is this through line of living my life before it happens, because of the probability field I went through. All of those realities could become actualities by based on my choices and the choices of the people around me. So what I'm saying is that I have this super strong sense where I live my future before it happens. And I feel like I'm experiencing these events that I've already seen them. I've already been through them. It's it gives me a that level of assurance. Not that I made all the right choices, but I'm where I am and I should be where I am. But had I made other choices further back, I'd be in another future where I am and should be where I am. You see what I mean? Like, so this ability seems to stem from this our altered sense of perception during the NDE, during the spiritually transformative experience. I definitely had an altered perception of time. Time was like inside out and wrapped around, and all time and no time and now and then and no time at all. Timelessness. Like, some of it came back with me. And for me, it feels like this dislocation. I feel like I get dislocated in time and space, as if I'm seeing these events in a sort of rear view mirror as they happen. So, does anybody else resonate with this? Does anyone else have this kind of experience? I really want to know, because this is was very confusing for me, and it was difficult in the real world. I'd be, like, in a meeting, and I'd be like, "Roar," and I'd be like, "Whoa," and people would be looking at me like, "What just happened, Peter?" "Well, I just saw my future before it even happened," and I could never say that. So, an ongoing sense of connection to a spiritual world or spiritual beings. And after my NDE, after many people's STEs, we describe a persistent connection to the spiritual realm. And for me, that was an unavoidable, can't go away from, always present that pervades my entire life, everything I see, every breath I take, every heartbeat of my life since that day. I have this interior connection, which I chose to uh, expand upon in order to become more integrated. But there's this persistent connection to the spiritual realm. And maybe it's beings of light or angels or guides or deceased loved ones for you. Or maybe it's this constant sense of the divine presence. It's a natural result. This connection comes back with us, and it provides me comfort. I assume that the same is true for you, comfort and guidance and a profound sense of belonging. I know that I am known. I know I am beloved. And because of that strength, I have a level. I came back with a level of non-attachment to the world and attachment to the connection. And if a person focuses on the connection, it will remain strong and will deepen over time if you work the connection, shaping it shapes my actions. It shapes my thoughts, and my thoughts become actions. It shapes my worldview, my perception. So does this sense of connection remain strong for you? Do you have a sense of connection after your experience? Did it come? Did it go? Did it weaken? Did it strengthen? So, but there are ways, and we've been teaching those ways here, and we've been practicing, and you all know a bunch of different ways uh, to nurture and strengthen this bond. Okay, so I just had one of those future things, future viewing in the rearview mirror right now, like right now. So these are the spiritual after effects that IANS puts forward. And they underscore these ones we just covered. They underscore the transformative nature of NDEs and STEs, leading to profound changes in people's belief systems, if they have one, which I don't, belief systems, values, That's the most important one because we live our values in the world, and but we live our values in the world because of our perceptions of reality. We can talk like we should talk a lot about reality maybe at Mystic Tea Salon, and we're going to start a little late this morning. I'm going to turn that on right now before we finish up here. It's hopefully won't interfere with the camera. At least I'll get that going. These experiences deeply influence our lives. I mean, so deeply that we're here as a group gathered, and knowing about what these after effects are helps us grow and evolve spiritually. So I want to thank everybody. Plus, especially if you hung out here waiting for my internet to come back on this morning, I want to thank you, thank you, thank you for hanging out here this morning. Um, thank you for your ongoing support and your generous contributions, which literally keep me alive. Frankly, your generous contributions keep this channel going, but they keep me alive. And so, thank you for helping build this super niche mystical community. It's super niche because in the wider mystical community, those of us who are in pursuit of the oneness of being are a subset, but we're right in line with the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads and Jesus and a whole bunch of people looking for the singleness, the oneness of being, and not the powers that it gives us. And we're going to talk about that next week. The psychic powers and desire for them, and what they are, and all those things, and how to live with them. But we're a mystical community that seeks wisdom. Now, it's whether through Super Chat, and thank you for the Super Chat this morning, PayPal, Patreon, Venmo, Zelle, Wise, subscriptions, checks, cash, gifts in the mail, and even a MoneyGram from Vienna this week. I had to drive a 80-mile round trip to go to a CVS this week to pick up a MoneyGram, but I thank you very much. It was helpful. But thanks for contributing. And if you want to book a private time with me to have a conversation, spiritual conversation, counseling, it is my profession, and I'm happy to help. So please visit peterpanagore.love. Peace be with you all. I'm going to take a quick look at the chat here, and because I don't want to let people down over there in Mystic Tea Salon. Let's see if I can get this going. Where is it? Calendar. There we are. Gone to home. Gone to recurring Mystic Tea Salon. I'm going to start that up. Hopefully it won't interfere with the camera. But I'm going to look over here for a minute. Let's see. Wow, you had a good chat this morning. I can see that. I'm going to move my camera. I mean my screen so I can see who wants to come into the room here. View. I'm going to let a bunch of people in as I continue to look down this list. So if you're just joining me over there in Zoom, hang in there because we had internet issues this morning. I'm just finishing up over here on YouTube. So I'd say hi to everybody. That is the step I'm currently in. Stepping away from religion was a big part of your growth. Yeah, Tom. I know. I love you. You have a deep heart, and you're finding your way through that. Homesickness, yes, always. We have missions here to accomplish before we can return to our true home. We don't want to have to do this over, says Lynn. Yes, the connection needs to be daily to help me continue here. Amen to that. So I have been told that I have an intuitiveness about truth, almost the truth of the other side. Amen, Amy. So I came back with a BS meter too. That is part of my intuition. A pretty high one. All right. I would love to run through all of these, but I feel a responsibility to go over to Zoom. So if you want to meet us over at Zoom, the link is open. I love you guys. Thanks for waiting for me this morning. Thanks for your conversation over here. Peace and love. Peace and love.